to the Dysfunction Junkies podcast. We may not have seen it all, but we've seen enough. And now, here are your hosts, Chrisy and Kerry.
All right. Welcome back, Dysfunction Junkies. We're your host. I'm Kerry.
I'm Chrisy.
In today's episode, we are going to talk about that secondary dysfunctional family. You know, those neighborhood kids that you were stuck with. You didn't pick them, but they were in your neighborhood and you were stuck with them. So Chrisy and I grew up in two different types of neighborhoods. I grew up on the edge of town, starting to be into the country, where Chrisy was in a more traditional neighborhood. So Chrisy, I understand you have a beef with some of those neighborhood kids.
Well, the one thing I'd like to say to those two gentlemen out there, wherever they are, if they might be listening, which I doubt, but my name is not Chrisy Pissy, assholes. That's all I can say.
If my name is not Kerry Dumbass.
Make sure they understand why the play on words for that one, because they were not being creative at all.
No, they were not being creative.
They couldn't come up with anything.
Yes.
And mine either. Mine just rhymed.
So my last name was Dumas, D-U-M-A-S.
Right.
But people thought it was hysterical to say, Kerry Dumbass. Oh,
I hate to throw a movie thing in there real quick, but
You and
there's
your
a
movies?
reference to that in a movie.
Kerry Dumbass is in a movie?
They're talking, no,
Oh.
the last name. Nick, Shawshank Redemption. I'm trying to remember, but they were talking about an author, Alexandra
Oh,
Dumas.
Yes.
And what's funny is our producer / DJ Nick / my
DJ Nick.
husband had to remind me of the book. Why? Because I graduated with a degree in English literature. And The Count of Monte Cristo.
Oh, see, I didn't know
But I believe the
that.
gentleman in the movie called it Monte Crisco. I can't
Crisco.
remember. And he called it Alexander Dumbass. And
Yes.
he thought it was so funny.
Alexander Dumas.
Right. So
Right.
get it right, people.
Right, exactly. Yeah. I'm sure there was a lot of other nicknames that I had from people growing
me
up,
too,
but
I'm sure, yes.
most of them I've blocked out. But yeah, that one always stuck in my craw because people thought they were being so original. Oh, look at you. We're going to really get you with that zinger. And it'd be like, be more creative, idiot.
Yeah,
You know?
you're not the first one who's done this. I mean, if you think you are, then I guess you also think you're super special.
Yes.
So I grew up the city limits in a neighborhood mostly populated by older
Yes.
people.
Yeah.
But there were some kids, either, I don't think I had anybody my age exactly. A lot of them were either a little bit older or a little bit younger.
Yeah. Did your neighborhood have a sidewalk?
No.
No. Yeah. Mine didn't
So-
either, but we lived out in the,
Right.
boondocks. Let's just say this. The road that I grew up on, at least back in the day, no longer now, but back in the day, there was two cemeteries, a house, a little caretaker's house in between the two cemeteries that had a very creepy guy that lived in it. And then there was maybe two other houses and then ours. And then there was a cornfield. So yeah, we had a little different growing up.
I guess it's considered rare within the city to not have sidewalks. But
Yeah.
our street drove into a metro park.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So
Yes.
6 houses down the street was one of 3 lakes that were in the park. A
Yep.
lovely park. A lot of people who are from where we're from love it.
Yes.
I grew up next to it, so I guess I took it for granted.
But you still had a neighborhood. Like you had houses, like you could walk next door to your neighbor
for the most
relatively
part,
close.
You could.
Right.
It was sort of an unusual city area because the property I grew up on, my parents had 2 lots, and it
Yeah.
was like an acre, which in the
Right.
city is
That's
is
a lot.
odd. And we didn't have anybody behind us because again, the
It
park
went to the woods.
There was a park road behind us, and so. But for the most part, the houses were reasonably close. And
So you had older people in the neighborhood, but there were still some kids.
Yes.
Many people your age?
close.
Okay.
A little older, a little younger. And these are not people I would have chose.
No.
But that's the whole reason they're like a dysfunctional family.
Exactly.
You're stuck with them for as long as you have to live there. You make the best. And you might be saying to yourself, why am I putting myself through all of this with these people? And it's because you have to.
Yes, you have
You
to.
have no choice.
Right.
I mean, I did generally choose just to stay within my compound and not go out. And the other crappy thing about all this is that I grew up with a swimming pool.
Oh, yeah.
And nobody else in the neighborhood had one, now that I'm remembering. Right. And so I had a lot more friends in the summer.
Yes.
Than when it got cold.
Was it an above ground swimming pool?
It was an above ground. It was sort of a weird thing because the way our backyard was, half of it was definitely an above ground pool. Right. But some of it was built into the ground just because our
of the
yard
slope.
sloped.
Right. Not a lot of people in our area, this part of Northeast Ohio, have an in-ground pool. You have to be really upper class to have that. So.
Yeah, I think that more people are getting them, but when you live in this part of the country, a lot of you, I'm sure, will understand. You really got to understand, is it worth it?
Right.
How much of a swimming season are you going to have?
Right. But June, July, if you're lucky, maybe August.
Yeah, and you got to make sure you heat that thing because you're not going to get to use it much at all if you don't. Not people I would choose.
Mm-hmm.
I can't say I keep in touch. One young lady, she's not young, she's my age, a little younger than me.
We're young.
But, we are young.
Despite the pimples that we're both having today.
We are having so much excitement over doing this that we have both done
late onset puberty or something with a pimple
we both
breakout.
Have painful pimples on our face. And we're trying to figure that one out because I can't remember the last time I had this. I think I was about 16.
I got this one on my chin and it's driving me nuts.
And I got one on my forehead. I look like that commercial. It was a commercial for the
pimple cream.
Yeah, it's not on the end of my nose, but
so we're really relating to our childhood woes today because we're both having these odd onset breakouts at 50.
Yeah. So the fact that I'm able to remember my nickname from these two, my DJ Nick says the Stridex commercial.
Oh, the Stridex. Good job, DJ.
I don't even know if they sell those anymore. I was a Seabreeze girl myself, but I don't think they sell that anymore either.
Well, that was for people that could afford luxuries. We would just slap a little alcohol on it in my house. We couldn't afford those high-end products.
I think Seabreeze was basically that. It smelled very strong. But...
Well, right now I need some Seabreeze on this thing right here. But anyways, back to our childhood dysfunction.
Yeah, so being called Chrissy Pissy all the time by these two dopey boys that lived in the neighborhood. God, I don't even know why. It was just, I was really little at the time. This is like my first interaction with neighborhood kids. Mm-hmm. Didn't even play with them or anything because they were older. And, of course, why would I want to after that? But I would dread them being outside, and then I would want to go outside because I would have to get my nickname out of the way.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, I didn't have so much problems with the kids in the neighborhood because, again, grew up on a street with 2 cemeteries, so there wasn't a lot of kids roaming around my neighborhood.
That ideal.
I was living Chrissy's ideal life. So
those are the best neighbors.
We did have some kids around the corner that later in life I got to know because I got a horse and then they had horses. So we when I had a horse to ride around the corner a few miles, I could find the other children. But most of my time growing up, there was it was just me and the neighborhood animals. So I didn't have to worry about that so much. But when I went to school, so riding the bus. So again, we lived a little bit out in the country, so I had to ride a bus. And our bus system, because we went to a Catholic grade school, and so we had to share with the other Catholic grade schools. So our bus actually picked up 3 different schools, picked all of us kids up in the country and dropped us off at the different schools. So we were riding the bus with kids that we weren't even in school with. So it was just...
it all just the Catholic schools, or did you have
No, it was all Catholic schools.
Oh, it was all Catholic. Okay.
Yeah. So I think there was definitely 2 schools, but I think at one point there was a 3rd school in the mix. But so it was just a melting pot for bullyism. So yeah, it was crazy. And then when senior year or going into high school, then we would have to sometimes transition buses because they'd pick us up and then we'd have to get on a different bus to take us downtown to the high school. So yeah, that was where most of the name calling and all of that was on that. I mean, imagine it was Catholic kids on the school bus.
You did the high school bus. Did you were you with other kids from other? Well, because I'm guessing at that point, were you on with some of the public school kids then?
No, we were. It was all high school, and I think it was towards the end. It was just all our high school, but I still feel like sometimes there was other kids on there, but I don't know what school they were from. But yeah, so it was crazy. And it was a long bus ride. Like I was the first kid picked up at like dark hundreds, 6 o'clock in the morning. Right. And then by the time you drive through all the little country towns, pick everyone up, and then school started at 8 or something stupid.
Wow.
It was crazy. Which is why I started driving my pickup truck, the Flintstone truck that we talked about in episode 1.
Because I don't know what's worse. Getting harassed on a bus or driving my
hole in the floorboard
truck. I'm sorry. I don't mean to sound. Who the hell do you think you are? You didn't have a truck with a hole in the floor. Well, no.
These were my options: truck with a floorboard hole, or getting harassed by all the different kids. So how do you think that shaped growing older? All that name calling and dysfunctional neighborhood kids and everything. How did that affect you growing up?
Well, for me, it was a nice base for anger and hostility and hating the other kids. My first feeling when meeting people, probably for a very long time, probably into my 20s, was, you've got to be an idiot. I don't know anything about you. Haven't even said one word out of your mouth yet, but I'm about to have a conversation with you. And my first thought is, you've got to be an idiot. What are you going to say that's going to agitate me? So yeah, I'm easily agitated. I've gotten much better. Yep. But
you're not bitter.
Chrissy Pissy? No, I'm not bitter. No, not at all.
Oh, Chrissy, you cracked me up.
So, but that's pretty much, I think, for me, that's not everybody's experience. I'm sure all of our listeners have had some horrible nickname, or, hey, maybe you were on the other side. I don't know. Maybe you can, write in and tell us why you wanted to call somebody Chrissy Pissy.
There you go.
Was it
or
just...
Kerry Dumbass.
Yeah, I mean...
what did they gain from that?
Well, they made their friends. It was a peer thing, I'm sure. You know, because generally you didn't, hear that from somebody just standing around by themselves, because then that's a whole other problem going on.
There you go.
But again, and no, we're not therapists. We are just telling you what our thoughts are on this. We have no science-backed information on this.
But this is how we get through things.
Yes.
We talk about things. We laugh about things. We laugh at our own dysfunctions. We laugh at our own bitterness or not bitter, depending on how you want to look at it.
Yes.
Because this is how we get through. We laugh at our dysfunctions. So.
Well, how do you think having to endure that whole process of being called your name, how did that shape you later on, or how you feel about it now?
I think that's why for the first 30 years of my life, I preferred being around animals. I found it safer to go into a lion's cage with 6 adult lions than it was to be out with the public. That's how I felt. So, and yes, for a little reference, I did raise lions for a company that provided lions for one of the major hotels in Las Vegas. So I actually have been in a cage with several adult lions, and that is way safer to me than the general public.
Wow.
Yes, I have issues. I know. We've got issues here. We're not denying it. We're not judging, but
I'd have to say that those we are so defined by this. I think it just totally, and it stays in line with how we are.
Yes.
Your whole thing was, and we'll get into it later, was to hold back, to not discuss it, suppress.
Right.
That was our word.
Right.
We're going to talk more about that in more episodes.
Because we don't talk about the elephant in the room.
Right.
Yes.
And mine was to normalize it. Yes. And I took that hostility from these kids, the fun. It's a kid thing. I get it. We're not making it out to be anything bigger than it was. All kids do this. Right. I'm sure. I know I'm guilty.
And we don't condone bullying or anything like that. Again, we're talking about our personal experiences and how we've processed it and how it's developed.
And we didn't even really think of it as bullying.
We didn't
back then, because it just wasn't something that was brought to everybody's attention. You know, it was just if you would have went to if I would have went to my mom,
I was just going to ask you that. And what did your parents say? Did you talk to your parents about it?
No. They probably heard the kids calling me that and did
they
nothing.
Probably were laughing at their own.
I think the neighborhood kids want you, Chrissy Pissy, gone. I mean, again, because this is what my family did.
Right.
We normalized it.
Right.
So to them, that was probably just my second name.
Yeah.
They may even thought I loved it. Oh.
Well, my family didn't talk about things. So I didn't even talk to my family about it because we don't talk about our problems. We don't talk about things. So, just go home and pray about it and see how you can be a better person. And maybe they'll like you more if you say a couple Hail Marys.
My parents didn't want to talk about it at any length. So they figured they would just acknowledge it and say, well, that's fine. Chrissy Pissy's perfect. Just go out there.
Embrace it and
deal with
move
it.
on.
And as I'm told by DJ Nick, should be my rap name.
Oh.
Chrissy Pissy.
Chrissy Pissy.
I
can't rap.
And
I'm
the
not
Pistols.
a rapper. That sounds more like a band name.
I guess so.
So.
But so probably my parents didn't think anything of it. I know my mother would make me endure stories of all of her bullying, which is a whole different time period.
Right.
And if our bullying wasn't really acknowledged or emphasized to have any sort of negative effects on you, her time period, really, nobody, I mean, if anything, we're talking 50s, I guess.
Yeah.
But nobody acknowledged that
Not at all. Not at all. Yep. They've repressed those feelings and emotions and everything.
Well, now that might be that your family, continuing with
that's
that,
right.
they repressed
They
that.
repressed
I
it, so
had to
therefore,
hear
you're
from
right.
my mother,
You're
and I
right.
still do. The horrible stories about, I can tell you the names of the men who said these horrible things to my mother. Because she makes sure that she lets me know who it was and, how hot. But then what kills me is she says she saw them later in life, like within the last 10 years or something. Oh, and they were so nice.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, I don't know. I don't know how I'll react if I see somebody who really got under my skin. I'm going to try and I'm going to have to take an extra pill that day.
My mom wouldn't remember, and it's not because she's definitely onset dementia, but it's just because she wouldn't have remembered because it was, we don't talk about things or whatever, and she's just going to be like, oh, she would just fail to commit that to memory that anything happened and life was good and we had no drama and nothing. And so, so she's suppressed it and repressed it to the point of recreating history.
And almost that it didn't even happen.
Oh, exactly. Oh, yes, 100%. That's definitely my household. So, but.
Well, my first, to see these people again, which I'm at a benefit that I don't live in that area anymore, but I did become a member of Facebook within the last 5 years or so, which I really opposed, but was sort of pushed into it. So you do get to see some of these people you wanted to forget about. Yeah.
Are you friends on Facebook with these Chrissy Pissy boys?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, I don't know where they are. I mean, I kind of know where. I'm sure they're back there still. I think.
Probably.
And to be honest, that was just the beginning. And as much as I thought they were assholes for calling me that. I probably wouldn't really hold that against them because we were so little. I mean, I was probably 4 or 5, and that meant that they were only like 6 or 7.
Yeah.
And I would hold more hostility against people who agitated me in high school.
Oh. Well, luckily I must not have been one of those people since I'm still here with you today.
No. I can go off on a whole list of that whole thing. And those people come up quite a lot more because I'm friends with some people from high school and their stuff comes up, pops up, and I'm like, ugh, I remember them, and then I remember why I'm not happy right now. So, but, I think we've all had, I can't think that there's anybody out there who doesn't have some sort of.
Oh, there's got to be. Everyone has. We all have a story. I mean, that's why we're here, because this is our safe place to talk about our stories and how we become who we are and how we get through life and how we're going to get through the future. So, I think people should post on our Facebook page or whatever about, their childhood trauma nicknames or stories about the neighborhood kids or,
what I would wonder, because you already touched, and we both touched on, how our parents maybe dealt with such things. We're both the youngest of older siblings. Do you remember them ever talking to you about their experiences being
No, our family, remember, we didn't talk about anything.
I just wanted to make sure we were still being consistent.
No, we're consistent.
I anticipated your answer, but I didn't want to say anything. So I can probably tell you almost as well as my stories.
Yes. Your sister's
my
stories?
sister's stories.
I'm sure you
Although my one sister had way more bullying stories than the other one. And again, probably should have just like let it go.
Right.
But I had to hear about their bullshit too. And it's like, double bullshit. My bullshit, and then I'm trying to talk about my stuff.
But they have to outdo it and talk about theirs.
Then
they had it worse.
They did. But you know what? Worse. Because I think that it bothered them a lot more than it bothered me. Okay.
Right.
Okay. Yes. I'm hostile. Yes. I'm agitated. Yes. Okay.
Admitting is the first step, Chrissy.
But I will be honest with you and tell you, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I am a totally imperfect person.
Oh, 100.
Totally flawed. I will say things that aren't right. I will probably jump to a conclusion before I should. Please understand that I am a work in progress.
We all are.
Forever. Mm-hmm. And I do now, one thing age has done for me is help me try and at least reflect a little bit. And then the other thing I'm able to do a little bit more. Now, my husband, I'm sure, will disagree with you, but I can, in my own mind, it doesn't verbalize. Yeah. But I can, in my own mind, come to the conclusion that I was probably wrong.
Well, that's a step.
That's
a step. Yeah.
It doesn't give anybody else any satisfaction in my world, but I'm satisfied to know that I can admit that to myself.
I think for me, I still always somewhat try to be positive. I still try to see the good in people. And I think that's like a coping mechanism that I try to deflect when I have those irritating thoughts or whenever I'm irritated at somebody or upset with somebody. And I still try to think of something good. In fact, my husband and I, like, for instance, we'll be out driving somewhere and someone will pull out in front of him and he'll, have some curse words about the person pulling out. And then here's me. I'll be like, well, you don't know. Maybe they're on their way to the hospital because, they're having a baby or something, and it's just like, leave it to you to try to find something good. And I'm like, but I realize that's a coping mechanism that I've done because when people have been mean to me or mistreated me, I'm still trying to find the good in people.
You're giving them a pass.
I know. Sometimes I do, but trust me, it's like I'm looking for that silver lining, I'm trying to find something to
I'm
deflect.
sitting here. Are you looking at me?
I am.
You are looking at me. Do you see
I know.
the look on my face?
You're horrified. Like, we could do a whole episode on the look that Chrissy's giving me right now.
You are giving these people a pass.
Well,
you are making them a story they would probably be happy to use as an excuse for why they're an idiot.
I know, but I'm trying to find a way to not be bitter, I guess, and to... I don't know, but yes, I do that. But then there comes a point, but I will say there does come a point with me where it's, okay, I have maybe given people a pass. I have maybe tried to find, the good or kind of looked past and maybe forgiven a lot more than I should have. But there will come a time when enough is enough with me. And then it's all about healthy boundaries. And I have no problem for that point. And then at that point, it's no longer rainbows and unicorns. Now it's like, wrath and destruction. So I do get to your point. It just sometimes takes me a little longer.
Takes you longer.
Yeah.
And probably people look at me and say, you really don't need to get to that point so quickly.
Yeah, you don't need to go from 0 to 10 in 1 second.
No, I guess not. My husband's a little bit more with your philosophy, I think, that, maybe giving them a little bit of a pass. Yeah. One thing is I react quickly.
Yeah.
Probably. And I've tried harder not to because I realize when I do that, I do come to probably most of the time the wrong conclusion. But the one thing I've learned to do is I get my husband on the case and I talk to him about it.
Yeah.
He expects me to totally right then and there give him my notes on the situation, which I do. But I know I got his number after all this time. And he will take it and he will process it. And then he'll sit there and think about it. And generally within 24 hours, now he's really angry. But then by then I'm like, never over it.
Yeah.
But
never over it.
I'm at a different place than him.
Because we're not bitter.
No.
See, I think that's where my husband and I are a little bit different, but it's still kind of a similar relationship. So, he will be, if someone does me wrong, oh, look out. He's like, boom, he's right on it. So he won't take 24 hours to get there. He's like on it. If I'm upset, he's like on it right away. But I will definitely try to find the softer side of things first, usually, and try to be like, yeah, well, you don't know what's going on in their life. I mean,
yeah.
But
maybe we can just a little bit touch
find
on
a medium ground.
Medium ground, boy, I tell you, I don't know where that is. I'm either on I'm on the hill or I'm in the damn hole. But therapy, which we totally encourage. If you need that, it's nothing to be ashamed of, and you should do it.
But everyone's got to find what works for them.
What works for them?
Because
I was going to try therapy. I went to a couple of people.
Yeah.
And what's funny with me is
you had the therapist on the couch by the end of the session.
No, I would go to a session and then they would refer me somewhere else.
Oh no.
And generally it had to do with, look, I'm not a medical doctor, and then they would scribble incognito some medications they thought might help me. And they're like, look, I just maybe talk to your medical doctor about this. And so I take the little slip of paper and put it in my bag and move on. The second one I went to, I sat and spilled my damn guts all over the place and talked to them. And they don't usually give you a lot of feedback right away, or at least the ones I went to,
Tell me how you feel, Chrissy.
Well, they never said that. I don't think they wanted me to tell them anything, but... So by the end of that second one, I said, okay. And again, with the little paper and the names of some nice medications they thought might help me. And then I said, so do I need to make another appointment? I'm like, all psyched. I'm like, and they're like, no. Like, you don't need any more appointments, no more therapy. Just talk to your medical doctor, and see if they can help you with see what they think about the medicine track. So here we are.
Yeah.
Podcast. So if you have a therapist who's telling you, no, you don't need another session with me.
I did not have quite that experience because I too have tried therapy several times over the years and different situations here and there. And after 2 or 3 sessions, I was just like, there was no connection, and it was just it didn't work for me. But this, talking to my close friends, to my inner circle, to my safe space of people, this is my therapy, my chosen family. So, and I use that phrase a lot in my life, my chosen family, and it's actually offended my real family. And I don't understand quite why, because
they didn't act the way they did. You wouldn't have to say that.
Well, yeah, there's that. But it's also a matter, to me, chosen family it's not necessarily degrading your blood family, but your chosen family is your people that you want around you, the people that get you, the people that listen to you, the people that you feel safe talking to, that you can have these conversations. It's your friend that you've had for 20 years and, maybe only talk to once a year, but when you get together, you can be yourself and, normal and talk in openness about. So, so I never felt like going to therapy. It just never worked for me because I felt like I was trying to create a family that I didn't want to be with.
Right.
So this podcast and having these conversations and everything is more therapy. I learn more about myself. I mean, even like today, I kind of made that realization like, I think I give people a pass because I'm really trying to work through my own stuff.
Right.
But
well, yeah. So I do envy people, though. I've heard some big success stories where people can find a therapist.
And that's awesome.
That they click with.
Yeah.
And they're comfortable with. And I've heard people going to the same one for a very long time.
Right.
And, I mean, go for it.
Yeah.
I mean, that is wonderful.
If you're lucky enough to find that,
and
that's awesome.
Hopefully you know that you recognize that and you can continue that. To give credit to those couple therapists that I went to who said, no, don't make any more appointments. Just give the little slip of paper to your medical doctor. They did find, I am open about it. I do take an antidepressant and it's wonderful.
Yeah.
I love it. I definitely noticed a difference. Now, there's a lot of people who do not want to take anything and I get that. Mm-hmm. I mean, you got to do what you got to do. Some people find help in dietary changes, finding some natural help through
or exercise or meditation or yoga. Right.
But I mean,
Well, I don't take depression medicine, but I do take anxiety medicine. And I started on that about 2.5 years ago when my father was on his last ends of his days. Mm-hmm. And when he passed away, and I realized how much anxiety has been part of my life. And I never recognized that before. But it was even as early as these childhood things. Like now looking back, I can see how much anxiety I had, and I was suppressing it. I wasn't talking about the elephant in my own head with my anxiety. And, but yeah, so I've been on that medication for a couple years, and it's same thing, life-changing, has truly made, made things a lot easier. So
hey, we all need a little bit of a kick in the rear once in a while. And, but again, it's about, what works for you.
What balance.
And some people don't feel they should be discussing that. It's personal to them. So you absolutely
find your space,
yes,
safe space.
That is a safe
And maybe
space.
it's just sitting here and listening to us talk about our zits on our head, zits on our chin.
And being called Chrissy Pissy when you left the house.
Well, this has been very therapeutic today. Yes. I hope that you all got something out of this as well as we did. We are going to put a poll up on our Facebook page. So we're going to, ask to share about your childhood nicknames and things. We'll put that on there. Love to get your feedback. We also really would love your feedback as far as what do you think about our podcast so far? Those 5-star ratings that really will help us on iTunes or whatever your podcast you're listening through. But also, if you want to check us out on Facebook, we're going to have some additional show notes and things that we'll talk about and share. Maybe we'll find a picture. Maybe we could post a picture of our zits on our faces.
Oh my God. Nobody will want to see that.
But
the 5-star rating definitely, everybody will help. And remember, because no therapist wanted to deal with me. So you give me that 5-star rating, that'll help be a nice boost kick to my my medication. On top of that, I'll be flying high. I will love it. So
yes.
You'll be doing good for me too out there.
Well, we hope everyone has a great week, and we certainly hope that you tune in next week. Who knows what we'll be talking about next week, but we certainly hope you enjoyed today's show. So see you later.
Goodbye.